and welcome to the 6th episode of the Maddfuzzy podcast. I am your host, Marta. I am coming to you from Knox, Maine, where I live with my handsome man and our 2 wonderful dogs. This is a podcast about knitting, spinning, hand-dyeing wool, and doing as many homestead crafts as I possibly can here in rural Maine. If you are a new viewer, thank you so much for joining me today. If you are a returning viewer, thank you so much for coming back. Unfortunately, my microphone died today, and I recorded the whole episode not knowing that nothing could be heard. So you're going to hear the dogs, you're going to hear the outside, you're going to hear my camera focusing. So I'm going to try to stand really still so that I don't have to have it focusing constantly. I'm hoping the dogs will be nice and quiet and just lay down, and we'll do this podcast episode for you the first time, for me the second. So I will try to make sure that I repeat everything that I said last time and not repeat myself too many times in this episode, thinking I haven't told you yet or had told you yet or whatnot. So where you can find me on the internet, you can find me on social media at Maddfuzzy. That's on Instagram. You can find me on Ravelry as Maddfuzzy. You can also join our Ravelry group, the Maddfuzzy podcast group. And you can email me, maddfuzzy@gmail.com. As far as our Ravelry group goes, it is quickly growing. We have over 50 members now and 36 introductions in the introductions thread, which brings me to our giveaway. I am giving away a skein of yarn for one of the first 100 introductions. It is Into the Mystic, and this is a Maddfuzzy skein. This is my Pure Fuzzy blend, which is 100%, or Pure Fuzzy base, which is 100% East Friesian Wool. I dyed it myself. This is the Into the Mystic colorway, and it is 100 grams, and it'll be going to one lucky one lucky viewer or Ravelry group member who introduced themselves. So if you are thinking about introducing yourselves in that thread, please do. Also, please thumbs up or like this episode if you do like it. Subscribe to the channel. I do an episode every 2 weeks. So if you like what you see, please do subscribe. You'll be notified when I have any new content up. And that thumbs up helps people find me in the internet, because there are a lot of podcasts out there and they're all so wonderful, but sometimes you can get a little lost in all the internets. So please do hit the like button, subscribe, join our Ravelry group, and introduce yourself. I know that's a lot to ask, but if you do all 3, there are good things in store. Well, I guess if you do all 4, there are good things in store. That's terrible. Now you're not going to want to watch the rest of this episode. So I'll get right into knitting so that you can forget that terrible rhyme. So I do have a finished object for you this week. A finished object! Yay! It took me long enough. It's been a couple weeks since I've had a finished object. But it's my blue mercury socks. Hot dog. Oh, there's one of my hairs. There's some white dog's hairs. Fact of life here. So these are the Mercury socks by Kim Drotar. They are a gorgeous lace pattern. I did do a slightly longer heel as was suggested to me, so I did 20 stitches instead of my usual 16. This is a Manos de Uruguay sock base, so it has some pomade content. Polymade? I believe it's some sort of a plastic nylon content. And I don't know the colorway name, but I did these on DPNs on my 2.5 millimeter needles, and they will be going into my box of socks, which is the Yarngasm podcast, Volenvine, or Kristen of Volenvine, or Yarngasm. She does her box of socks, Cal, and this is going to be, out of the pairs I have not worn and whatnot, and are putting in the box, this is my 5th pair. But I knit more than that this year, and I've just been wearing them, and I don't want to count them or show them on the podcast because they have gotten some serious heavy wear. So I am keeping up with the one a month, but this is one of the new pairs that are going that I'm going to wear or start wearing those pairs in January of 2018. Holy cow. So I do also have a half-finished object, a hoe! Yay! I managed to make it through the marathon of stockinette, the 1.5 miles of those 11.5 feet, and complete the boyfriend sock. So this is a sock for my sweetie. This is a wool-free sock blend, and so it's got some spandex and whatnot. I bought it at a box store. Don't know the colorway. Kind of reminds me of, you know, the southwestern United States. But he has 11.5 feet, so I made nice big long sock for him, nice big long cuff. And these definitely feel wool-free. They really do. They're kind of a weird texture, but I think he's really going to like them. I did make them a little bit smaller than I normally do a men's sock. I did 64 stitches instead of 72 stitches, so that it would be a little bit tighter for him, because the wool-free just kind of stretches a little bit more and stays stretched out. So hopefully he'll really like these socks. I really like them. And now I have to cast on the next one. And speaking of things I also have to cast on, I have to cast on my little mini sock for my Mercury socks. Once I finish a pair of socks, I do have to make that little mini sock for my hashtag memory sock garland. So you'll be seeing that. They don't take me very long, about 30 minutes per sock. So I'll do a little mini sock probably later this evening while I'm watching TV, and that will be finished, and I'll show you on the next episode. I have a couple works in progress. Yes, I have been casting on things like a crazy person. So for my first one, I guess I should give you a little bit of backstory about this. So last episode I had cast on the diagonal lace socks in Maddfuzzy. I had ripped out the diagonal lace socks in Maddfuzzy. I cast on then, after the episode, a toe-up Maddfuzzy sock and tried the diagonal lace pattern again. And something about going up, the yarn overs were so loose. They were just like these giant holes in my sock. They were just awful. So it was the opposite problem of what I had from doing it top down that I really didn't like. It was too small, too loose. So I ripped out the lace part and picked up the stitches in the toe and started over. So this is Maddfuzzy take 3. Alright, so this episode is Maddfuzzy take 2. These socks are take 3. So there they are. I am just falling in love with this colorway. I do put a little charm on my toe-up socks so that I know which side is the front and which is the back. And this is a little Scotty dog I got from my advent calendar 2 years ago from Bakewell Hearts. I had gotten the peacock colorway for that advent calendar and absolutely loved it. And I love these little Scotty dog progress keepers that I got with it. They're some of my only ones. But I do a double knit toe cast on. I will link in the show notes to a really great video on how to do that. This woman has a really high production value on her episodes, and she goes over different toe constructions for casting on toe up socks. And there's some really cool ones, but the one that really caught my mind, or my eye, was the double knit. So it's kind of like the slip stitch pattern on a slip stitch heel, but on the toe of your sock. So I thought that was really cool. The link to that video is in the show notes. Definitely check it out. There's no waste yarn, there's no provisional cast on, there's no fiddlies. It was really similar to the way I normally cast on anyways. So it was really intuitive for me, and I picked it up really easily. And I like doing it. It's not too tricky. Let's see if we can get focused here. You can hear all the noises, folks. So there's no mic today. So the yarn itself, so this gorgeous plum color down here, and then this lovely variegated kind of speckle. I am calling this top one Stormborn, which is, if you know the reference, I think it's pretty cool and matches pretty nicely. But this is going to be a pair of toe-up socks for me. I need another pair of Maddfuzzy socks. I'm going to do the Fishless Kiss heel with these. I've never done the Fishless Kiss heel, but everyone's been ranting and raving about it for years. It's really inexpensive. I'm just going to bite the bullet and pay the $1 and pick it up, because one of my sock knitting idols, Julia of the Happy Knitting podcast, if you don't watch it, you should. She knits so many socks. I mean, nothing like the Knitting X-Pact as far as knitted socks, but she knits a really good amount. And she usually does, she has Magic Loop, which is why I tried it. And she does Fish Lips Kiss Heels, which is also why I'm going to try it. I'm going to be a huge copycat, but she is so wonderful and amazing. It's okay to copy something awesome. So I'm going to do the Fish Lips Kiss Heel, and I am going to do them on my one circular magic loop needle, and that should be trucking right along. If you have any suggestions, if you've done the Fish Lips Kiss Heel and you want to give any kind of suggestions to what would make it easier, if there's anything you learned, I'd love to hear them down below. Put them in the comments, put them in the Ravelry group. If the Fish Lips Kiss Heel is awesome and amazing and everything you thought it would be, let me know. If you don't really like it, let me know why. I'm really curious because this is going to be one of the first times I'm going to try it. I've tried other heels, like a German short row heel, and it just came out so gappy. So yeah, I'm going to give that one a try. And if you have any general heel suggestions, put that in the hashtag all I talk about is socks, because that is a great place for all this information to just be hanging out and shared, and let everyone know what's kind of happening with the general construction of socks. So that's my first work in progress. I do have another one, and it fell off the table. Bear with me. Sorry about that. And we're back. So there's a store that's kind of local to me. It's up in Bangor, which is about an hour away, and it is One Lupin Lane. It's a yarn store and kind of sort of gifts and shawl pins, good jewelry, and I'll show you. This is her yarn label. She dyes her own yarn as well. And this is the Knox base. It's a 3-ply BFL. There's no nylon content in it, so I may do a heel and toe string just to give it a little bit more strength. The name on the colorway is called Candy Skein, which in the cake looked like Acid Betty, crazy, acid pinks and greens, and it was really insane. And it's kind of mellowed out a little bit as I've knitted it. But it's still pretty vibrant, but I'm really enjoying it. Of course, it's got my favorite color, hot pink. And this is the cuff of what's going to be a simple skip sock, and that's SKYP. And that's a really nice slip stitch pattern. It's going to be really nice and simple, a little bit more complex than just my vanilla knitting. Just top down, free on Ravelry. So that's what these little bad boys are going to be. This is some deep stash for me. I got this yarn at the Harvest Festival they do in Bangor every year, this big festival of Maine-made items and things like that, and we had a booth at the farm. We're selling cheese and beef, and I kept getting this sense that yarn was nearby. I bet you there's yarn here, and I realized that it was the next booth over, was the One Lupin Lane booth, and I saw these two skeins sitting there. One of them was this one, and another one which I'm really hoarding away. I've just got to find the perfect project for it. But I looked at them and I said, if those are there after the 3-day festival, I'm buying them. No matter what. I know I don't have the money for it, but if they're still there, I'm buying it. It's, it's meant to be. So they were there at the end of the 3 days, and I took both of those babies home. And I'm really glad I did, because I am enjoying knitting this now. It's a really nice base. It's plump yet rugged, and I am just going to enjoy knitting this so much. There it is in its cake. It's going to be great. So we'll see how that goes a little bit further along. Another thing that I did, and I just did that this morning, I took all my little scraps that were kind of on the blue spectrum, and I magic knotted them all together into a stripy surprise sock. So there are some pattern socks in here. There's some Regia. There's some I think there is some Felici in there. So I kind of matched up the patterns and the colors, and I think it's going to be a really fun little sock. There are 80 grams in this little cake, so that should do 2 socks for myself. I've kind of been experimenting with these magic cakes. The first one I made was for my father for Christmas, and the stripes I made on it, I did, I think, 20 cranks on my ball winder for each color. And they came out these giant chunks of color. And you really notice when you change from one yarn to the other. So the next one I did was for a friend. It was all these spring colors. There were going to be spring socks for her and all these bright pinks and things like that. And I only did 10 cranks.
So there was less, and they came out to stripes about an inch, but it still wasn't the effect I was looking for. It was nice. Some of the patterns and some of the pattern yarns were complete, but I thought maybe a little bit less. So I did only 5 to 8 turns on this cake. So it should be a much smaller yarn or stripe. It'll be a much smaller stripe, and it will be a little bit more blended. So you'll get just a piece of a pattern that'll blend into another, and they'll kind of look like they're maybe the same, but not. So I'm excited to cast this on. I'll probably cast this on tonight, as well as the mini sock for my Blue Mercury socks. And we'll have a little cast on party all by myself while Heath's at work. Maybe watch some podcasts. Probably watch some podcasts. Or something else that I'll tell you about in a little bit when we get to the life section. So that's all the knitting that I have. I've been busy. I've been doing some good work. And getting some things done, getting some things Kitchenered, even if it is hours before the podcast. But yeah, I've been definitely cruising through. I've also had a little bit of time to pickle some things, which I was pretty excited about. I ended up making some dill pickles and some pickled quail eggs. Heath had gotten some quail eggs from a local producer who does some of their products at the restaurant he works at, but he had asked him about quail eggs, and the guy had given him, I think there was 18 eggs in the little tiny, itty-bitty little carton, maybe 12, but there's more than 6, that's for sure. And so I did kind of a dill pickle brine, and there it goes. There's my quail eggs. Aren't those fun? So those will be ready in a little while. Because I was pickling, and I'm not just going to bring everything out and do 1 jar of quail eggs, I also picked up 10 pounds of the smallest cucumbers I could get from Dicky Hill Farm. That's who I got the other pickles, or the other cucumbers from. Nomi is absolutely phenomenal and grows some of the most amazing veggies. And I also love going and kind of walking around and checking out her farm when I stop by to pick stuff up. So I got 10 pounds from her, and I did kind of dill gherkins. And so I filled as many jars as I could and put as much garlic in as I could, and I have these gorgeous dill gherkins. I did whole sprigs of dill that I got from her garden, and yeah, they're wonderful. But I kind of wanted to take a second, because now that I've done the dill and the bread and butter, to kind of talk about the difference between dill pickles and bread and butter. Of course, sugar is a huge thing, and the seasoning is a huge thing. But there's also a huge difference in the way that they are made. The bread and butters, you cut the pickles and you ice them. And you ice them for 3 hours. You really want to drop the temperature of the pickles, because what you're going to do is you're going to take your brine, which is your vinegar and your spices and things like that, bring the brine to a boil, add the iced cucumbers, and bring that to a boil. And as you're bringing it to a boil, it's actually cooking the cucumbers. The icing of it helps them not be as cooked, because they're colder, they're going to take a little bit longer to heat up and take a little bit longer to cook, and you're only bringing it to boiling, so you'll have a crispier pickle. But you're essentially cooking bread and butter pickles and then adding them to the jar and then canning them. So they are truly a cooked pickle. Whereas the dill pickles, I was taking the raw cucumbers and packing the jar as much as I possibly could, adding the seasoning directly to the jar, boiling the brine, which in this case was vinegar, salt, and water, and adding this vinegar, salt, water mixture to the sanitized, spiced, packed jars. Big old truck just went by. Oh my goodness. Sorry. So they're not a cooked pickle. The hot water does kind of cook them a little bit, and so does the canning, but they're not cooked by any means the same extent that the bread and butter pickles were. And so for me, canning the dills was much quicker, much easier than doing the bread and butters, which involved the icing for 3 hours, the adding the cucumbers to the brine and boiling that, and then doing the canning. So that took so much longer, hours and hours, at least 3 hours longer. I mean, on the short end of things, it could have taken 5 hours longer to do the bread and butters than it did for the dills. So if you're thinking you want a quick pickle, the dill is going to be a little bit easier for you instead of the bread and butter, which requires all these extra steps. And these are the things I'm learning about making pickles and preserving my own food, and I thought I'd share some of that with you and my experience in that. And if you're interested in making your own pickles, please do share those in the comments below. Let me know your recipes. Let me know what you're doing. If I'm completely wrong about the difference between these two pickles, this is just how I do it. I'm not claiming to be a pickle expert by any means. I'm just a girl with a podcast on the internet who really, really likes pickles. So that's what I've been doing as far as homesteading crafts. And that also brings us to the end of kind of the general meat of this episode. So if you're only here for the knitting and this little pickle talk, then I'll see you in 2 weeks for episode 7. Thank you so much for coming by. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that like button. And please do introduce yourself in the Ravelry group. I am reading every single one of those, though I am not replying because I want to keep that 100 nice and clean for the drawing. But as soon as we get to 100, I am going back and I am answering everyone because I have read everyone and I am just so excited to meet everybody. So thanks again for dropping by, and I hope you have a great week, and we'll talk a little bit about what's been going on in my life. So we have been working so much on the house. It has come along leaps and bounds. As you saw last week, I had walls up and floor stringers. I now have a subfloor down upstairs, and we have the stair stretchers. So the part of the stairs that actually, gets cut out and where the treads sit on. So we have those done. We have our bathroom all framed in. The next thing for us to do is to basically cover the exterior of it in plywood and Tyvek, and then we'll move up to the next story. We really want to get a little bit more stability in the lower story with that plywood to make sure that everything kind of stays as it is. We're going upward and putting the roof on. I did call around and get quotes on everything and found out that my roof is going to be about half of what I thought it was going to be. So we are right on track to be finished by the end of this summer and to not be completely and utterly broke as well. It's been kind of a race to see if we run out of time or if we run out of money first. But as of right now, we've been really keeping up and sort of having one when we had the other, and it's been a miracle. So that house is just cruising along. It's been phenomenal. And I've had a lot of help, I'm not gonna lie. Joel came out and did those floor stringers, which is a friend of ours who's been helping on the house the whole time, and our other friend Steve, who has been instrumental in getting this done. We call it camp build. He's our camp counselor and teaches me and Heath how to build things. But with his infinite wisdom and amazing help, we have gotten so far. So I'm really excited about that. I also had a realization what I have been doing with my free time. I went on to Hulu last night and went to my profile, you pick who's watching, and went to the watch list and realized that all I had been watching was Project Runway. Like literally the only thing was Project Runway. I got kind of lost. I mean, I'd put it on and I'd just keep going. Hours and hours of Project Runway. I'm totally hooked on it. Something about the competition show. I've always been a big fan of competition shows like that. RuPaul's Drag Race is still my ultimate favorite. But Project Runway is definitely up there. I really like that they're making clothing. I mean, come on. We all love textiles and that whole thing, so it's just a perfect fit. And when I'm home by myself, I can watch whatever I want. So I've been watching that. It's kind of my guilty pleasure, that and Kitchen Nightmares. I love Gordon Ramsay. So Project Runway, Kitchen Nightmares, two very guilty pleasures. But I only get to watch them when Heath's at work. So I will probably be watching those tonight while I cast on all these socks and mini socks. So let's see. I have recently been going on more adventurous dog walks. My friend Amy came back from, actually her name is Audrey, but we call her Amy. It's a long story, but she came back from New Mexico and she is an outdoorsy, kick butt kind of a woman, so we have been going on kind of epic walks around the Unity campus and around Unity proper, and just kind of, it's been so nice to have someone to be on dog walks with. I haven't had much company. Either he does it before I get home from work or I do it before he gets home from work, and so it's been really nice to have the company. The girls love it. They're loving their extra long walks, and it's just been a little thing that's been making my last couple of weeks just extra special. Another thing that's been making my last couple of weeks super special is we finally got pigs at Springdale Farm. And that's the farm I work at. And when I'm making cheese, we'll make about 100 gallons we'll add 100 gallons of milk to the vat, but 70 of those is going to be whey that's going to be drained out of the cheese. And I basically pump it into buckets and dump it. And now that it is pig season, I get to actually feed this whey to baby animals, which is awesome. These little pigs are so cute. And I drive up with my little truck and they come running on down and they're so excited, and I dump this big bucket away I dump about 14 buckets away into their trough, and they get excited and they yell and they jump over each other, and if you gotta have a crummy job, which is lugging buckets from point A to point B, if there's feeding baby animals in the middle of that makes it not a very crummy job. So I am excited that one of my least favorite jobs on the farm has now become one of my favorite jobs on the farm. So it's always better when work goes a little bit easier and you enjoy it a little bit more, right? So, yeah, I think that is the end of this episode. That's all I have to tell you about my life. I hope I didn't forget anything, having filmed it twice. I remember saying that, but actually I said it on the other episode and you don't even remember. But I hope you enjoyed this episode, and I will see you all in a couple of weeks. Enjoy your knitting!